But just like to welcome you this morning to our March Innov8 Virtual Insights. Really delighted this morning to be joined by Chloe from Webexpenses, who's going to run through some information in regards to, I guess, your online expenses and trying to automate some aspects of that and drive some more efficiencies within your business. So I'm not going to steal her thunder too much. I'm going to pass straight over to Chloe, and she will run us through the presentation this morning. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A, and from the Q&A, we'll be able to pick those up throughout the session. I know Chloe's also got a spot at the back end for any questions. So without any further ado, over to yourself, Chloe. Thank you.
Brill, thank you. Nice to meet everyone that's on today. Thanks for coming. Just a brief introduction to me. My name's Chloe. I'm one of the sales consultants here at Webexpenses. And what I'm going to do today is just give you a brief overview really of the system, how we can help, a little bit of information about us as a company and who we work with. And then also I'll be doing a brief demonstration, taking you through the system, giving you an overview of that as well, touching on the integrations, how we work with Sage and pass the information into Sage and back into Webexpenses as well. And then, yes, as mentioned, we'll also have a section where if there is any questions in the Q&A, we can cover them as well. So a little bit about us. We've been operating since 2000. We have over 2,000 clients as well across the globe, spread over 70 different countries. Now we have offices in the US, in UK, also in Australia, and that allows us to offer 24/7 support as well to all of our clients that use the system. So over 330,000 users. It's quite a few people. Few of our clients I've got here now, these are a few big names that you probably will recognise, hopefully a few of, but we do work with loads of clients, all different sizes. Just if I put any smaller businesses, you might not recognise the logos necessarily. But yeah, we have a supported price model that supports businesses from like virtually startup all the way through to enterprise companies, as you can see here today. And what our system's going to do is essentially grow alongside you. So the more claims submitted, the more employees you get who are travelling and about to say eating out, but claiming subsistence and things like that, then we're going to work alongside you to support them. So how we can help? So some of the common problems that we see is like a time-consuming process. That's the most popular. You know, people are using manual processes like spreadsheets, attaching receipts into them, email-based approval. This can sometimes cause a lot of human error. It can take time to nag the approvers to get that over to finance, and then this is having to be manually keyed into Sage. Just really an inefficient process. And what we're going to aim to do is to streamline that process from start to finish and allow for people to submit their claims. It will also allow them to be in line with any policies you have in place. The system's going to help save you time by essentially tracking the expenses that are being popped in, making sure it's in line with any policies we have in place as well, and just really get it a whole way through the process and into Sage for payment as quickly as possible, get people their money back. One of the other things we help with, so we do standard out-of-pocket personal spends, such as like subsistence mileage, but we also help with reconciling corporate cards. Now, obviously, a lot of problems with this is maybe you're giving statements back to your users at the end of the month. They're having to like dig through their bags, find their receipts, match them up, send them to finance. That's causing problems in itself, perhaps. So that's something that I'll also touch on today, how we can streamline that process as well. Which moves me swiftly on into the key features section. So number one, the credit card reconciliation process. What our system's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to automatically match receipts to transactions. So as good as it sounds, it's going to speed up that process so much. Your users, they'll just snap their receipts, the system does the rest. Now you'll have, I mentioned mileage earlier a little bit. That's another key feature of our system. So we're able to track journeys, sort of like how you do it on your phone, like start point to end point. We're going to track the distance alongside any mileage policies that you have in place, whether it's a certain amount per mile or perhaps company cars, items like that. And what we can also do is track carbon emissions on that journey. So Our system's going to allow you to track the carbon emissions on road, train, air, taxi, motorbike journeys, and provide you a pre-made report so that if you do need to share those details, it's just quick and easy for you to do. Now, a lot of companies are moving toward green initiatives, and some people are just wanting to be more aware, and that's why we've just made that like a really key feature in our system that you'll have access to whenever you need it. A couple of other features to make it a bit more streamlined for you guys. So we've got the OCR technology. We're going to scan the receipt out. We can send it through customized approval flows, so the system will automatically direct it to the relevant person. It's going to check that it's in line with the policies, and realistically, it's just going to give finance complete visibility over spend by allowing you to look at reports, look at claims that haven't been submitted yet, things like that, just so you've got complete visibility over the expenditure with regards to expenses. So I'll pop into the demonstration. So bear with me while I move over to start sharing my mobile app. So I'm going to start today on the claimant's perspective on the mobile app. So this is the claimant's perspective on the mobile app. Now, when I first log in, we're greeted by a personal dashboard. So it says good morning, good afternoon. It's got their name on it too. And this particular dashboard is for our out-of-pocket and mileage expenses. Now, the users have complete visibility over their money, so they can see how much is waiting for approval, how much has been approved, and all that jazz. They shouldn't be nagging anybody in finance anymore. We swipe across, we've got a similar dashboard for corporate card spend. Now, what we're able to do is set up a global endpoint with Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and essentially that means we can pull the transactions into our system from them on a daily feed. So when the person uses their card, the transaction will hop onto that daily feed, come into our system and be allocated to the correct user based upon the card details it's come from, and then it can automatically match to a receipt if they have uploaded one into the system. If I wanted to pop something into the system now, I could just press the blue plus button and the camera receipt button, snap a picture of my receipt like so, and click use photo. And then if I'm happy, press the green tick at the bottom. Now, what the system is going to do is use OCR scanning to pull out the date, the amount, and the description off of that receipt for us. However, we can amend the description. So if we did want to give a little bit more information, I could do that at this point, just for my approver of finance. Now, if it did belong to a corporate card, we would just toggle the switch at the top there, press the green tick, and it would save into our receipt area at the bottom, where it would sit and wait for the transaction before matching off for them. But I will carry on with an out of pocket, so I would just untoggle that there. So next they'd have to select their category. Now this category list is going to mirror what's in Sage with the relevant nominal codes in the background to ensure that we're putting it into the right location in Sage. If you have any policies, this is where we can pop these in now. So the orange eye that's flagged up, if I click on that, it's a free text field for you to pop in any rules around your particular category. We can also accommodate for spend limits. So we have what we call soft or hard rules. A soft rule being that you can go over the spend limit, but you would have to give a reason, and then it's up to your approver to make a decision on that, or finance. And a hard rule being a hard stop, you cannot submit over a certain amount. If I scroll down a bit further, you'll notice I have a project tab. Now what we can do is we can add additional tracking fields. We can add up to 2 tracking fields, and dependent on what you're kind of tracking in Sage, we can also set up the coding in the background to ensure that it's going to the right module in Sage as well. Quick note on VAT, that's also attached at a category level. So when I selected subsistence, I've got that set up in the background at 20%. Therefore, it calculates 20% of the total amount off of that receipt for us. This can be amended by the user, but more importantly, it can also be amended by finance, who are the best at their VAT rates. A couple of other items at the bottom, we can add attendees. So if we have anybody external when we're claiming this expense, we can obviously add their details, company name, a few notes as well. And we also have the ability to split a receipt. So whether that's across multiple categories, multiple tracking fields, multiple VAT rates, it just means that we can ensure that the right portion of the receipt goes to the right area in Sage. But if we'd filled in everything we needed to, we would just press the green tick at the bottom and we can add it into our claim. Now, what this pulls up are my claim headers. These are virtually just folders or wallets where you can pop your receipts in and submit whenever you're ready. So I've just gone for one for April today with the idea that I'd pop all my receipts in, submit at the end of the month. And once we save that, the dashboard updates to represent that spend too. If I go back into the claims section at the bottom and into my April folder, we can see the items got a green tick because it's all in line with the policies I have in place. And it also has a green paperclip to indicate it does have a receipt attached here too. Now I'm going to briefly take you through a mileage claim, and we'll do that by pressing the blue plus button again. But this time I'm going to do an expense from scratch. So I'm just going to click plus claim item. Here we can fill in all our basic bits of information. So our category, the date, and of course a brief description too. But when I click the map route add destination button, it brings up our integration with Bing Maps, which works fairly similar to in directions on your phone. You pop in your start location and end destination. We also have the ability to do favorites and recents. So if you do have people that are doing repetitive or regular journeys, then it just makes it even easier for them to fill that in. Pulls that route up for us. Now, we've all been there on a Monday morning. There is quite literally always a road closure or a diversion or something like that. What we can do, because the map is interactive, is we can zoom in and we can drag and drop it to match the way we actually went. Press save, pulls all the information through for us. We can make it a return journey by toggling the switch here. It's pulled through our number of miles and at our mileage rate, which we can customize whether you're using private mileage like 45p standard or car allowances, or you just have like a customizable rate internally, or even company cars. We also have a way of managing them in the system too. But something that is a little bit different with our system is we are able to track the carbon emissions on journeys too. So we can track carbon emissions on all road, train, air, taxi, motorbike journeys. And that's a report that we will have pre-made for you in the finance screen to make sure that you can track that if you'd like to. Again, I'll select a project. And if I did want to add a receipt, we don't just have to snap a picture. We can access them from the receipt section in the solution itself, from our phone galleries. We can email them in, or perhaps we're using another app on our phone like Uber or Trainline, and we can actually share directly from those apps too. So we have options with regards to how we want to get the receipts in. Receipts, however, are also a rule. So for example, we can say you cannot submit without a receipt, just to kind of, enhance our VAT reclaim and everything like that. But today I've got that switched off for mileage, so I can move forward without one being attached. Now you'll notice when that's popped into there, we've got a red exclamation mark, and that, if I click on it, is just because I dragged and dropped the route. So it does flag up if anybody does try to interact with it. But if we were ready to submit, we're at the end of the month, or just simply, we just want to get this submitted now, we'd press the blue submit button. We can add any notes for our approvers in here if we wanted to let them know there's a road closure or anything like that. And because I claimed mileage, I can also toggle the switch at the bottom there, which populates a duty of care statement. Now, this is optional. It's also customizable, but it just means that they've got to confirm that they've got a valid driving license, they're insured, and everything like that. Press the green tick, and that has sent that off to our approver. Now, before I touch on my approver side of things, I will just briefly go on to credit cards. So if you did have someone who had a corporate card in the company, they could click into their credit card tab here, which is going to show the list of transactions that they have made. Now, I always like to compare this to online banking on your phone. So if you go out and you buy a coffee, it's going to populate in your online banking app. That is very similar to what's going to happen here. Just the only difference is that we have the ability to match to the receipt. So we've got a green paperclip to indicate that for Coffee Smith and Burgers and Brews, it's found a receipt in the system and it's matched off. However, Darcy and May Green here, we haven't got a receipt, so we know that we need to go have a dig in our bag and find it, essentially. But once they have matched, we just code them up, select them and submit them as well. Hopefully that's all sounding okay at the moment. I'm going to swap into my approver account now. So approvers are notified on their mobile app notifications and their email notifications if they have something to approve. We can customize approval flows. They can be multi-step, they can be threshold-based, project-based. So we do have a couple of workarounds, but today I'm just going to take you through standard, line manager, and then to finance. So this is my line manager here today. They will have an approvals area where they can click in, see the claims they need to take a look at, and then open this up further to see the individual items in here. Now, quite handy at this stage, we do offer line item rejection. So if we didn't want to hold up the whole claim, we could just select the one item we are unhappy with, press the red cross, and we would have to give a reason as to why we're rejecting it, just so the person can make the necessary changes before resubmitting. However, today I'm all happy, so I will just select that off, press the green tick, and that sends that off to my finance team. Now that is the mobile app in a nutshell. I'm going to swap onto our web browser now to take you through the finance perspective. So I will stop sharing this here and start sharing my computer screen. It is worth noting that everything I've done so far on the app can also be done on the browser. So it's completely up to personal preference, how people want to submit their expenses or approve them. Right, just let that load up there. So this is our finance perspective. Now, when finance log in, they're greeted by a really high level reporting area. So we can see our top 10 spenders if we wanted to tell them to tighten their purse strings a little bit, top 10 categories, a nice visual on what we are spending like our expenses on. If we're using the tracking field, we can view that information too. We also have a couple of reports to look at approvers, whether approvers are consistently approving things that are out of policy, whether they're actually spending much time reviewing their team's expenses, like items such as that as well here too. But I will touch on our reporting suite in a little bit more detail in just a second. I'm just going to finish off those claims that we've sent through first. Now for finance, they'll have a personal spend tab. They will also have a credit card tab here too. So for the reconciliation, they could just click in, select the relevant bank account cards. And of course, we're doing it in line with your billing periods as well. So we're all in line with the bank and how you have it set up there. Now you'll notice here I've got 4 transactions. My top transaction has a status of approved. So it's come through to finance. We can see it's been coded up with all the relevant information. We can interact with it. So if this was incorrect, we can amend, like, for example, the category. But from a finance side of things, we can simply look at also the receipt. And if we were happy with it, give it a blue tick like this one has here today. That means that we've checked it. It means that no one else is going to double up by checking it again. Once all the items have a blue check next to them, the reconcile button on the right-hand side here will go green and you'll be able to reconcile those receipts to the transactions. However, of course, in the meantime, you're waiting for people to submit their receipts. And what we will do from that perspective is we give you the ability to sort of give them a prod in the right direction. So, for example, we've got 3 that say pending here. So they're the 3 that we looked at on the mobile app. And we can see that they've got receipts for 2 of them. So for whatever reason, they just haven't submitted them through yet. And what you can do is give them that prod in the right direction by clicking this button here, which will send them a nudge or a notification with the saying, please submit your receipt for this transaction. Or even easier, you can click notify all and it will notify all corporate card holders that they need to submit their receipts as soon as possible. With regards to the personal spend, we can click into our folders here. They've obviously been fully approved. We can again see the relevant items within the folder and then see the data accordingly. Again, finance has the final say over everything, so you can amend any of this at this stage if you are unhappy with it, just to make sure that when we put it into Sage, it's going to the right areas. We also can, of course, view attached receipt. So there's the one I took earlier. And with mileage claims, we also have the ability to view the route taken as well. Also, as well as any diversions are notified with these blue dots. On this page, you can also view like your audit trail, any notes attached, just so you've got all the information at this point. But if you were happy, you'd press the green process button. And that takes that off of our to-do list and gets it ready to go into Sage. Now, with regards to getting it into Sage, I will touch on the integrations in a bit more detail in just a second. But realistically, what you do is come into the integration transfer section. We will have set this up for you during implementation. So simply all you would have to do is select your dates, click view claims, and it will populate everything at this point. And you can then select it off what you want to transfer before the transfer button will go blue, and you'll be able to post that across into Sage. But as mentioned, I'll touch on this in a little bit more in just a second, because dependent on which module of Sage you're using as to how this will look. The last thing I will touch on before I go into that is just the reporting suite. So the system comes with a fully included gigantic reporting area with loads of pre-made ones, such as the CO2 emissions that I touched on earlier. We also have a custom area. In here, there's 116 items you can report on as often or as little as you'd like. So if there are particular fields that you're looking to track, then it is just nice for you to be able to do that. Save it, and then you can always run it as often as you wanted to. But what is nice about these reports is we can filter down the information, but they're very customizable. So we can set them up basically in the order that we'd like them. So if we wanted claimant name, followed by date, followed by, oh gosh, I don't even know. If I wanted to remove some of the columns, for example, so if I wanted to take out the payroll ID, for example,
for example, or maybe we want to group it. So I could group by category. That's a good. So we can see here that it's grouped that information for us. Now we can then export this information. It doesn't just have to be in CSV Excel. We also do it in PDF, which would have all your branding on. So like you'll notice today, I've popped in Innov8's logo. We would be able to do the same for your company. And in fact, when you download those PDFs, it would have your logo, have your branding, and it just makes it extra nice to give into like a meeting if you needed to internally. But that is a high-level overview of the system. So I will go back onto our slides now to take you through a little bit more around implementations.
So with regards to the integrations, we can integrate Sage 50, Sage 200, Sage Intacct, and a few others. We also have the ability to remove data from the system using a CSV download. So what I briefly just touched on is an export with Excel CSV, and also as PDF as well with branding on it. But the benefits of the integrations, of course, we're going to remove the manual keying in for you. So we can just literally with a click of the button, push that data into Sage. Now it looks different dependent on Sage integration. So for Sage 50 and Sage 200, we can post into there, into certain areas, as you can see on the right-hand side. So if you are using modules such as projects, cost center, then we can post into those particular areas as well there. And we have the options of posting across as either like an invoice or a cash book entry for those credit card spend as well there too. The Sage Intacct integration is a little bit different. So it's a two-way integration, which means that we can pull information from Sage Intacct into Webexpenses. So that, for example, if you were to update any employees or new categories, it will automatically update in Webexpenses as well. And again, we can post that across in Sage Intacct, and there's a selection of ways that we can do it from here. So journal entries, invoices, expense reports, etc., to allow you to then manage that data in the right area, so you can like put it into the right place, so you can make payment and everything like that, and to ensure that we're keeping everything completely up to date. So why Webexpenses? I'm sure a number of you would have seen a selection of expense management tools in your time. Now we are market leaders, so we've processed, as you can see, over 1 billion expense claims across 70 countries. We have 98% client retention. But most importantly, and the reason why this is because of the scalability of the system. So our pricing model works a little bit differently from our competitors, and that is on an active user basis. So what that means is that everyone has access to the system. If you've got those users that claim once a year at the Christmas party, then they're still able to. We're not blocking anybody out. So the licenses are free. You only pay for a number of users per month. So for example, if you had 50 people that regularly claimed, we set you at 50, and it could be a different 50 people each month. But what it does mean is that come to the Christmas party, we've got 120 people claiming. We can fluctuate up to that number before coming back down to the 50 the next month. Another reason why we are market leaders is because of our sort of customer success scheme that we have. So once you go live with the system, we have a dedicated account management team. We offer regular webinars, training, like our customer success plan essentially, so that any new developments we have to make sure that everyone gets the best of that and that it is applicable to what they're doing. Alongside that, we offer global support 24 hours a day. It's accessible on phone, on email, on live chat. And anybody's able to, so you're not just limited to admin users submitting support tickets. Any user in the system is able to as well. Thank you. I think that's a bit of a high-level overview. Do we have any questions at the moment?
Hi, Chloe. Yeah, there's a question that came in relatively early doors. So
okay.
The first one was in around kind of what makes Webexpenses stand out. I don't know if in terms of the features and functionality that you've been through, if you kind of wanted to reiterate any key points.
Yeah, so we're one of few who are currently offering carbon tracking. So that's a huge like kind of standout feature at the moment, especially with the ability to do it on corporate card spend as well. So if corporate cards are being used for airfares, for example, you know, no one wants to pay for one of those out of pocket. We're still able to track the carbon emissions on journeys such as that. But on top of that, the ease of use of the system, like the claimant's perspective, that you can just snap a picture and press the big blue submit button, makes it really easy to use. and also, like, I don't want to say enjoyable, but better than doing like your Excel spreadsheet and everything like that. So hopefully encourages people to be a little bit more active on it.
And then we had another question that came in, which was around about data transfers, specifically between Webexpenses and Sage. So again, just a little bit of insight on that, please.
Yeah, so for the data transfer for Sage 50 and Sage 200, it is a single way integration where we can post the data into, I think if I go back a couple of slides and touch on it again, we can post it to those certain areas. So for example, if people are using project field, then we'll be able to track the projects in Webexpenses and post it into the project area in Sage. This can be done as an invoice. It can also be done as a cash book entry for the credit card spend as well there too. And then for Sage Intacct, it's a little bit more detailed. So this is because it's a two-way integration. So we're able to pull the information into Webexpenses, make sure that we're completely up to date with Sage Intacct. And then, of course, once we're ready to transfer the up-to-date finance information over, we have a couple of options around invoicing, journal entries, expense reports as well there too. And again, we can mold with a number of different custom fields that are used in Sage Intacct as well. So as you can see, we've got locations, classes, customers, but we're also able to look at the user-defined ones as well. So there is any that's making a company niche, like a bit of work, it's a niche custom field, we're able to track that as well in the system too.
Cool, thank you very much. And then in terms of implementation, what the implementation process, what would that look like?
So for implementation, what would happen is if you signed with us as a client, we would pass you over to our sales and project admin team who would reach out and they'd set you up with your kickoff call. They'd hop on a call with you and essentially take you through everything that we would need. But once we've got that information back from you, we can really begin to start to build your system. And it is a light touch from the client's perspective. Like, we do the majority of manual work because you get dedicated implementation consultant who's going to do everything for you and basically say, are you happy with that? Is there anything you change? And then they'll amend it as necessary. And it's important to note that you only go live once you're happy. We provide full admin training as well to any admin users so that you're prepared to make any changes to the system as well.
Perfect. And then final question we've had come through was just in regards to some pricing from Diane regards a 20 user systems. It's probably obviously per user price, but then there's obviously things to factor in around the implementation, that type of thing, integration. So what's the best way to take that bit forward, or a bit of insight around that, please?
Yeah, so they're the three pricing things. So implementations are one-off cost to build a system, of course, and then there would be an integration fee to manage the data transfer, and then of course just your users. So we don't charge for reporting suites, we don't charge for anything additional like that, but with what I'm allowed to kind of give over a webinar, it's approximately £8 per user, and it's dependent on how many users are in the system. Well, thank you for having me on today. I think the last thing we were going to say is if you did want to have a demonstration of a system that's more customized to your process, to just reach out to your Innov8 account manager.